Hello everyone, welcome to Caroline Nutrition. This is episode 11, Detoxification. I'm your host Ian Cath, and I'm the one with the interesting questions to help us have the best that food has to give: health, vitality and enjoyment. And to help us make some sense of all the information out there, I'm joined with Caroline Scott, nutritionalist and dietitian and the person with the answers to your questions. Caroline, you're hot enough?
Am I hot enough? Yes, it's pretty hot here today in Brisbane.
Yes, we've welcome to the new year, everyone. It's early January 2017, and it is hot in the city. Yes, it's this is the way it is, isn't it? So we're sweating it out in our little hotbox home studio here for you, and we're going to talk about detoxification. Although I think I'm detoxifying in a sauna right now.
Yes,
and we have to turn the fans off in order to do this, or else you'll have the blowing into the microphone. So
it's making me a bit cranky.
Yes, so let's get this done and dusted, hey? Anyway, welcome to the new year, Caroline.
Oh, yes, and to you. Thank you very much.
Yes. Detoxification. Everybody loves it. It's, Christmas is gone. Everybody's sort of been indulging themselves a bit, getting into all the nice yummy things that is Christmas, and they feel like they want to have a big detox to make themselves justify that indulgence they had. What's it all about, Caroline? What is this whole thing about detoxification?
Well, I love covering this subject, and I was very keen to talk about it, and of course it just happened to turn up magically at the right time of the year as well, because you're right, people tend to come to me more often in January for a detox, and that's something they actually say they want to detox at this time of the year, just to set themselves on the right track for the year coming, and also to, as you've already said, to kind of reset after some of the indulgences of the last couple of weeks. And I love this topic because it's never what it seems, and so people have got this idea about detoxification, and it's not particularly accurate, and every year the media churn out the same old stuff and the same old inaccuracies about detoxification, which is why so many people have got the wrong idea about it. So wherever I can and whenever I can, I try to reset the information that's out there so people have got a much better understanding. And you're right, we're detoxing right now as we sit here sweating buckets.
Okay, well, I suppose we all know a little bit about this. We use toilets, don't we? So that's probably part of it.
Oh, charming. Get right into it.
Yeah, well, that's right. It's part of the detox process, but it's more involved than that, isn't it? And we think that we need to do things additional to what we do naturally. So what's the natural pathways?
Okay, well, let's kick off, and like we always do, let's just cover that little bit of science and biochemistry before we get into the other stuff. So many medical people will actually laugh at the term detox and detoxification, and that's, as I said earlier, that's because it's got this populist view about it now. Detoxification in the body is actually something that happens 24 hours every day. Every second of every day you're detoxing. It's a normal process like breathing and your heart beating, but we like to make it this special event where we might spend, say, 3 to 5 days doing a detox every year, and many of my clients do that, and that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that, but to actually give that a name, detoxification, which is the process of the body which is ongoing, it is a little incorrect, and it is a bit crazy, and that's why the medical profession sometimes laugh at us. But effectively what's happening is, in the body, when the body is doing its detox, which, as I said, happens every single second of every single day, we can help to what should I say, push that along, or given what we're currently doing with our body, we can actually slow that process down. So I guess the best way to start is just to cover exactly what the body is doing in terms of detox. So your body detoxes, or eliminates, shall we call it, consistently. So we use lots of different pathways to do this, whether it's, as you've already said, through the toilet, our bowels, but our skin is a great detox organ.
Mine's working real well right now.
Mine's working really well as well. Yes, it's quite disgusting. Urine, so every time you have a pee, your tongue, surprisingly, your breath coming up through your lungs. All of these, just think about it, anywhere that your body can throw things out. so it's through the skin or the bowels, etc., etc. Anywhere where your body can chuck stuff out, it will, and it's going to use any fluid that's leaving your body. It will try and chuck as many toxins into that fluid as an easy way to get it out of the body. So having that understanding, it's really vitally important that we make sure that we have all of those pathways operating really effectively, and that we don't put anything in place that becomes an obstacle to them working really well. So, for example, many people will use, and this is just such a random left of field idea, but many people will use like a mouthwash, and a mouthwash that's got, say, alcohol in it. Now, if you're one of those people that does this, that whole, kind of Listerine type of thing, what you're actually doing is slowing down your detox process, because the alcohol is actually killing a lot of the bugs that are in your mouth that we actually need to help us to detox effectively. So we can often get in our own way of detoxification, and that's part of the education as much as anything else. And that's, as I said to you before, you can slow things down or speed things up. Stuff like that will slow it down. We can use herbs and different supplements to speed things up. But it's really important that we understand that the most important part of detox is to eliminate effectively. And then you get into the nuts and bolts of detox, and what is detox? Detox is really those organs within the body that are actually helping your body to shift toxins and unwanted things out of the body so that they're not stored to cause problems within the body. So, for example, a really obvious one is things like alcohol. So when you drink alcohol, we all know that alcohol is a poison. Yeah?
Yep, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
I know, we all love it, but it is actually effectively, for the human body, it's a poison. But we're really lucky that we're actually able to metabolize or to deal with some small part of alcohol. For some people, larger than others, and maybe shouldn't be, but anyway, it is. And so the body will actually use its detox pathways really quickly to deal with alcohol, because otherwise it is a toxin and it's actually going to do a lot of damage in the body. So the body almost kind of goes into this emergency. Oh my goodness, there's alcohol in the system. We need to break it down. So it gets delivered to the liver relatively quickly from having consumed it, much more so than other foods and other substances. It finds its way to the liver quite quickly, where the liver goes through these two different processes. As soon as it's presented with a toxin like alcohol, it goes into its first phase where it tears it all apart and breaks it all down into its component bits. But when it does that, what we forget and what we need to remember is that sometimes those individual little components are actually even more toxic than the whole thing. So when you break down alcohol, you create something like formaldehyde. Now, we all know how toxic formaldehyde can be, and you wouldn't want to be drinking any of that. But that's what you create when you break down alcohol in your system. So the body here has to be very clever and understand that you can't just leave formaldehyde drifting around your system, because that's going to kill us. So the second phase of the detox pathway in the liver is that it attaches the formaldehyde to something. So and forgive me for using some jargon, but I'm going to use some jargon here. It conjugates stuff. So it puts things together. It will put a toxin onto something, onto a chelator, onto a protein, onto a transporter, and then that whole little compound gets transported out of the body through one of the elimination pathways. And generally for alcohol, it will be through the bowels. But for other things, it will be through the urine or sweat, etc., etc. So it's having that basic understanding. Now, just going back quickly as well to the first part of the pathway, when the liver starts to break things down, it can only actually do all of these things, break things down, make sure that, everything's been successfully broken down, and then it actually binds things to other stuff. It can only do that if it's got lots of the cofactors that it needs in the body. And when I say cofactors, we might have mentioned this previously, but this means things like vitamins and minerals and other nutrients that are used in the body in a chemical way to actually help the chemical process of breaking something down or building something back up. So in the case of alcohol, back to that example, you need a bucket load of thiamine, which is B1. Now, if you don't have enough vitamin B1 when you've got all this alcohol in your system, it's going to be very difficult for the liver to actually break it down successfully. If you don't have enough zinc, it's also going to be very difficult for the liver to make that formaldehyde into something relatively innocuous like acetic acid, which it can poo or pee out quite easily. Yeah. So it's important to understand that we need all these nutrients in a quite large doses to actually fulfill the whole detox pathway. And this is often where people fall foul of the detox process, because because they're not understanding, and two, they're trying to promote the detox process itself without promoting the elimination process first. So think about this. This is almost like...
I thought it would be the other way around.
Well, yeah, I guess, but think about it like a plumbing system. If your sink is blocked, there's no point putting more stuff down there because it's blocked. You've got to clear the blockage first. Then when you clear the blockage, anything you put down the sink can be cleared away. But if you don't clear the blockage, you're just going to get more stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when I put people on a detox, because that's what they want, I always focus for the first, really, depending on their health, to the first 10 days on elimination. So we get those bowels working really, really well. And then we go back and focus on liver health and other nutritional health to make sure they've got enough vitamins and minerals to actually cope with the detox process. But to actually push a detox process first can be very harmful, almost dangerous for some people, depending on the toxins they've got in their system and the overall health of their body and their diet, etc., etc. So I focus first on elimination, and then we go back and we have a look at detox. Now, not everyone loves that, but when I'm able to sit down in front of them and explain it in this way, they actually get it. And then they're willing to do that work. It just means that whizzing out to the local health food store and buying a detox product straight after Christmas is probably the worst thing you could do for yourself.
But that's exactly what people are going to be doing.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to be able to do this podcast right here and now, but to try and save them the angst of that. Before you go rushing out to buy that detox product, and sure, you can go buy it and then have it sitting in your cupboard for the next 2 weeks while you do the elimination step first.
Okay, are we going to talk about the elimination step?
Sure, we can it's relatively easy actually. But so it's just about making sure that you're pooing every single day. And if you're not pooing, you've got to work out what is not in your diet or what is in your diet in excess so that your bowels are not working. So it's one of the common problems, and I'm going to be very generic and stereotypical here and say I see this mainly with my female clients. You know who you are. So it's often women that don't poo regularly enough, and it's men that generally don't have that problem. Now, there are some differences, of course, and there are some exceptions, but that's what I generally find. So girls will say, yeah, I poo regularly. I use my bowels 2 or 3 times a week. And I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness, no, that's not quite what I meant. You actually have to poo every single day. And if you can poo twice, that's great, but at least once. So we know we're keeping everything active and moving. So one of the ways I would start with someone, if their answer to the question was no, they're not using their bowels on a daily basis, I will have a quick look in their diet and make sure they've got plenty of fresh whole food, and in particular vegetables, dark green leafy vegetables. These are the things that give us enough fibre. So it's fibre that helps us to keep the bowels working. But it can go deeper than that, and you can even have a ton of fibre, and some people do, but most people don't. You can have a ton of fibre, but if your gut flora, so your microbiome, is not in your favour, then again, you're going to experience probably a slow bowel, even a constipation. So there are 3 things I get people to look at, and for anyone out there listening, does anyone out there listen?
Yeah, there are people out there. I see the downloads. There are people
do you?
listening. Hello, everybody.
Oh, cool. Hi.
Hey, say hi.
That's very exciting. Okay, that's cheered me up. All right, well, for those of you out there listening then, the 3 things to focus on to get the elimination pathways working is to drink plenty of water. I know you've heard me say that before, but we still forget to do this, especially in the heat. Drink plenty of water. Have plenty of fibre. Now, if you think you're eating more vegetables, and if you're not, then you should eat some more vegetables. And if that doesn't help, then take a fibre. If you need to, you just need to. So that might look like some psyllium husks. It's really simple. Just put them in some water, stir them up, chuck them down. Or some chia seeds. Again, stir them through water, allow them to swell, and then just swallow them. You don't need much. A couple of teaspoons in a great big glass of water. And do that every day.
Kellogg's All Brand?
No, I actually...
Why not?
Because it
keeps you healthy on the inside. I've seen the ads.
I know, isn't that amazing? I wonder how much they pay for that.
No, seriously though, but why not?
Yeah, because it's too scouring and it's too congesting. So a lot of that stuff won't comfortably get through your bowel. Yes, sure, for some people it will. Imagine it, it's a bit like a toilet brush moving through your bowel. Ouch. Sorry about the analogy there, but it's a bit like
or
that.
Or swallowing a scourer.
Yes, so for some people that will work beautifully, but it's really not an effective way to do it, and it's not particularly comfortable in your body. You're better off to do something soft, the nice soft soluble fibres, because they are the fibres that our gut bacteria love. And remember, they're the ones that essentially at the end of the day are going to help keep the bowels moving. And they're the ones that will also help to support the production of vitamin K2 and stuff, which is really essential for helping us to create enough vitamin D, which we're going to talk about next time. But anyway, back to elimination. So we need some nice soft soluble fibre. So things like your psyllium husks, your chia seeds, lots and lots of vegetables. If you don't eat broccoli every day, then you really should. Green beans, asparagus. We've talked about the fibrous vegetables before, so you need to increase those in your diet and make sure that you're having those. And then you just also need to make sure that you haven't got an excess of other things. So for example, grain, if you've got a slow bowel, grain will not help you. Grain will tend to slow things down. Refined sugar will definitely slow things down. So for some people, not everybody, but for some people, a high meat intake. So this means if you're eating either a large serve of meat every night or you're eating meat twice a day and your bowel is slow, you might want to check in on that and just slow that down a little and not have quite as much meat. Get your protein from other sources. That might come in eggs or nuts or even lentils, some vegetarian protein sources. But just see, that's not for everyone, but just give that a go because that can actually help. So it's about increasing your elimination potential. Then we move back to our detox. So when you feel that your bowels are moving really, really well, and for some women, before I forget, I will actually also get them to use, if their bowels are really slow, I'll get them to use some probiotics, because just helping to augment your natural gut microbiome can be really useful. So if your bowel is really slow, I would start off with a probiotic called, and this is common, you can get this pretty much anywhere and it doesn't need the fridge, so they're quite handy to have in your handbag. And you just take one a day, and it's called SB Fluoractive, SB Fluoractive. So SB stands for Saccharomyces boulardii, and that's just the type of little probiotic bacteria that helps. And that will help to give you a nice big clear out, actually. So one of those on a daily basis, morning, night, doesn't really matter. And then another generalized probiotic would be a great idea. And then pack in the veggies, take some psyllium husks if you need to. I find another thing that works beautifully for people with with slow bowels is to take a nice spoonful, just a level teaspoon, of vitamin C powder. Like really simple, cheap as chips, calcium ascorbate, something that's really quite gentle on the stomach. And you do that at night with a little bit of psyllium, you'll find your bowels will move beautifully the next morning. So once we've got everyone's bowels moving, we go back to detox. And that looks like helping to support
Here
liver.
we are. We're 18 minutes into this and we haven't even touched detox, really.
I know, well, because you have to set the ground. You're always telling me how to prepare a wall to paint it. It takes ages.
Well, it's true, isn't it? So, yeah, we've managed to get the plumbing cleared.
So the plumbing is cleared and it's now working really, really well. And everyone's cheering, going, yay, this feels fantastic. And do you know what? For some people, they may not even move into detox because they feel so good that their elimination pathways are finally working after such a long time. And that can often happen. So don't push yourself. If you feel everything's working really well and you're pooing like a trooper for an Olympic sport, and you have been doing now for about 10 days, just keep going. And then we can go back to liver function anytime. We can go back to detox at any time. But if you're ready to move into that detox phase, then we need to make sure we're supporting liver function. And this is where you can take some beautiful liver herbs for support of liver function. This is where you make sure you are taking a really good quality mineral supplement. And again, you don't have to do this forever. You might just decide, right, I'm going to do a detox. You might have a program for, say, 10 days once you've got the elimination pathways working. So there are plenty of products out there, nice supplements out there. I tend to use really, really simple stuff with my clients. So St. Mary's thistle is a great liver herb. It's reasonably cheap. It's easy to get, and there are absolutely no studies that suggest there are any contraindications in any shape or form. So I find it a really safe product to go with. As long as there's nothing else in there with it, choose the cleanest one you can find, no fillers, etc., in a capsule form, the strongest one you can find, and you take one every night. And this is going to help the liver to actually do its job overnight in terms of breaking things down and then putting things back together again, so that by the morning you're ready to have a good old clear out, because that's what it's done. Does that make sense?
Yep, I got it.
Okay, so then we can actually help to support that process, that detox process, by using some, and I used this term right at the beginning, some chelators. Now, a chelator is just a thing, a chemical, a molecule that binds to the toxin that you're trying to get rid of. So, for example, in the case of alcohol, it would be that formaldehyde. Or, to bring it more to home to something that might be really relevant to other people as well, particularly to women, is estrogen. Your estrogen, you're not supposed to have your estrogen buzzing around your body constantly. It does its job once, and then it's meant to be dismantled by the liver and eliminated. But when it's not, and it's only partially eliminated, and then it cannot be removed from the body, because remember, we're not pooing well, yeah, or because your cortisol levels, your stress levels are a little bit too high. So if we're not eliminating that estrogen, it goes around the body again. And you know what? This is the estrogen that is now a little bit broken down, and it's become an intermediary toxin. And this is the estrogen that's responsible, girls, for all of our estrogen-driven cancers. I'm not making this up. And so it's really important that we get this estrogen out of our body, or we will start storing it in our fat cells. This is not a great place. So what you want to do is you bring in a chelator, so something that's going to bind to those intermediaries. And they could be things like your fibre, so your psyllium, so you up your fibre content. There are others like modified citrus pectin, which is a type of fibre, chlorella, which is a type of algae. All of these have got some really great research studies around them showing that they chelate really well. There is a great product that was created by a couple of amazing scientists in this country, and it's called Detox. I think that's something you have to get from a practitioner. You might be able to get it from some of the good quality health food stores. They'll have a little chat with you first to make sure you know what you're doing, how you're taking it. But it's all herbally based, vitamins, minerals in there. There's no pharmaceuticals or anything like that. And again, you just take one a day. So don't overdo these things. But once you've got the elimination pathways working, putting things like this into the mix with a little bit of St. Mary's thistle, which is a lovely liver herb, it's going to be fantastic for helping to detox the body, essentially. And then look at all the other things that you can do, like us right now, sitting here and sweating. Goodness me. So sweating is a great way to detox and allow the elimination pathways to work really beautifully. Getting plenty of rest and sleep is another way to help. If you're not getting enough sleep, the liver can't do its job properly overnight. And that's obviously not going to affect that's not going to be good for any of your levels, whether it's hormones or stress or whatever it is. So just being aware that it's not always just about our diet, it's not always about our food, and it's not always about that little product that you can buy from the health food store. There's a whole range of things that you need to consider.
So is it necessary to go out and buy those little products from the health food store, or what you said, basically we can bypass that and do it on our own?
Yeah, you can. You can do it on your own. Some people want it's almost like that feeling of confidence that something is there doing it for them or with them or whatever. No, you can do it on your own. It will be slower. You can use your diet. So, for example, our little recipe today is a beautiful cleansing soup that if you were to have that 2 or 3 times a week, that's going to really help. I'm also going to put on the site, so if you go to the site where the podcast is, then I'll also put up a little bonus cleansing juice, considering you might not want to eat hot soup in this weather. But there's a beautiful juice you can use, and you could use that daily. You could do, 200 or 300 mils every morning. Could be, pre-breakfast or something, and have that little juice, and that will also help. There are other things that will help. Just, if you were doing this at home yourself without having to go out and buy anything, do yourself some beautiful fresh lemon, squeeze half a lemon into warm or cool water every morning and drink that before you do anything else. That will help to activate your liver and your gallbladder to produce some bile to help you break things down more effectively. Apple cider vinegar also has a great reputation for doing the same thing. So 1 or 2 teaspoons in a glass of water before you eat is another great way to help with the elimination. So there are several things that you can do yourself. You don't have to go out and buy stuff, but it does depend how much you're trying to detox. Does your detox become actually a weight loss program? That's actually something different, but many people get confused and they think they're detoxing to lose weight. You're not. You're detoxing to try and shift stuff from the body, which would take the stress off the body. One effect might be that you lose some weight, but I don't think that should be what you're aiming for. Try and keep those two things separate.
I'd also imagine that not all detoxes are created equal for the normal person maybe getting around in life, what you've suggested is okay, but maybe there are some people who need a more severe sort of detox, maybe because of their lifestyle, work environment, something like that. Is this still the same methodology, or do they need to go and see somebody to get a helping hand?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'm not talking about rehab here. So if they're heavily detoxing from alcohol or drugs or something, no, yeah, sure, you can still put this, you can implement these ideas, and you should, but they need help and they need care. So they need to go to a practitioner who's able to put them onto a proper plan, particularly for rehab. If they have a loading in the body, so for example, if there's a heavy metal loading, if there's a chemical loading from a known source, so someone who's been working in a factory or somewhere where they've been poisoned by something, yeah, there are some heavy duty chelators out there that the medical world can get their hands on, and you can be detoxed using those products. And it's a hard process, but sometimes very necessary. That's not really what I'm talking about here today. So I'm not touching on those people who need that extra care, but they need to go seek that out if they need that extra care, because that's something that needs to be done under medical guidance.
Okay, and what about the negative side effects? I've heard lots of people say that they're on a detox diet or regime or whatever, and then they start feeling really, really bad.
Yeah, exactly. But those are the people who haven't done the elimination first. So that they go straight into a detox, and they might use a little product that's got a whole bunch of heavy hitting herbs, and it pushes the liver really, really hard. But it's like having that blocked sink, because everything's blocked. It can't leave the body. And so therefore it goes all around the body, and it will give you a headache, it will make you feel sick and nauseous, it will get stuck around your joints and make you feel achy and give you pains. That's the problem. And so a lot of people have got this idea that detox is painful. It doesn't have to be. Yes, it can be a bit uncomfortable for sure, but it shouldn't be that horrible, nauseating, making you feel sick, almost like giving you cold and flu symptoms. That's because you haven't worked out the elimination pathways first. And that's the thing I think is really important for people to understand. So before you go buying that product, work on your elimination pathways. If you can get your bowels working really comfortably and make sure that they're flowing really well for a good 7 to 10 days, then start detoxing. Don't do it before that.
Okay, I've never heard that. I've heard lots of people have a crack at detoxing. I've heard lots of people complain, but I've never once heard anybody talk about that elimination side of it first.
Oh, well, I'm glad I was able to bring in something bright and shiny and new.
Well, yeah, yeah. Compared to some of the previous episodes, now that we're up to episode 11, Caroline, this is fairly simple, really. It's basically get everything flowing and then take care of yourself to remove a few things using those little recipes that you've mentioned there. It's actually quite a simple idea and something that I can imagine a lot of people will take up.
Yes, I hope so. Sadly, I still meet a lot of those people who want a really quick fix. And so they would much rather rush out to a health food store and buy something so that they can take a couple of tablets every day or drink some sort of powdered mix-up drink and hope that that's going to help to correct and to fix and to give them the effect they want. And so in a way, that's why I always like to spend extra time with clients. Often when people come to see me for the first time, we do the detox stuff first. We talk about gut health no matter what they've come in looking for. So even if their outcome is something else, I always start with this. I start with elimination, with detox, with gut health, because I find these are the things that are a basis of people's issues. And if they haven't looked after this throughout their lifetime, then there are usually problems that they've already created, whether that's a whole bunch of weight that they can't shift, is usually from congestion and from the inability of the body to eliminate things effectively. So the body's very smart. It won't allow something to buzz around in the blood and cause damage. It will actually store it in a fat cell. So you get fatter without realising. So yes, it is simple, but it also isn't simple because it does require people to really be responsible for the things that they continue to stick in their mouths and down their necks. So, if you're going to continue to drink at an outrageous rate or to eat refined sugar on a daily basis, doing this kind of processing is really wasting your time.
So in the meantime, everyone, there are some emails, some comments that you can send our way. Email can be sent to carolinenutrition.com, and that's always easy, isn't it? But if you want to try Twitter, Caroline's Twitter handle is @CJRScott, whereas mine is @IanCath, and Cath is spelled with a K. And a little bit earlier, you mentioned a recipe. What's this soup you were talking about?
Oh, yeah, my cleansing soup. So what I said, I'll write it down on the podcast for everyone, but it's basically a mixture of using, depending on how many people is coming for dinner, of course, some heads of broccoli, fresh, some silver beet or kale, something dark and green, spinach even, an onion, garlic, and obviously water. And then you've sliced and chopped and whizzed, and you stick that in water and you soup it. I put it in a NutriBullet, but other people could do a Thermomix or whatever, a Vitamix, whatever they've got. I love the onion in it, but just, and then, salt and pepper, whatever is good for you. But it's the broccoli and the silver beet and the garlic that are key here for detoxing. And the juice is similar, but, if you want that one, you can come to the site and have a little look for it.
Easy peasy. That's a nice little simple episode today. What are we doing next week, Carol?
Well, I mentioned it already. What I want to talk about is vitamin D.
I don't need vitamin D. Live in Brisbane. Got plenty of sun here, mate.
Isn't that interesting? Because studies show that actually people living in Brisbane can have less than optimal levels of vitamin D. How interesting is that? And it's very interesting because it's having an understanding of the role that vitamin D plays in our health. It's quite integral. And I think most of us haven't understood. And over the last couple of years, there's been a whole swathe of separate research and studies that are beginning to come to the light, I suppose, to show us that vitamin D is really at the base of good health, good hormone balance, good gut health, good autoimmune health. So I want to cover it so people understand how they can optimize their levels. And maintain fantastic health.
That's for next time.
It is.
Okay. Thanks, Caroline. See you then. Bye.
Yes. Bye, Ian.